Welcome to the live session of IGCSE Biology conducted by Victory IB and CAIE Online Academy. Let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Rupali and I'm working as a biology faculty in Victory Academy. I have teaching experience of more than 8 years, and today I'm here to discuss a very interesting topic, that is digestive system. So let's quickly start this topic. As per the IGCSE guide, this is topic number 7.1. So when we talk about digestive system, we know that in human body the fundamental unit of life is cell. Different types of cells combine together to form tissue, different types of tissues combine together to form organs, and different types of organs combines together to form system. And digestive system is such a type of a system. So it is mainly made up of alimentary canal and digestive glands. If we talk about alimentary canal, it is a long muscular tube of varying diameter measuring 8 to 10 centimeters in length. It extends from the mouth to the anus and is highly coiled in certain regions that we will discuss. It has different parts which are specialized to perform different functions related to the nutrition. So let's study one by one. If you look into this picture, this is a long alimentary canal which starts from the mouth, then it leads to the esophagus, then from the esophagus it continued to the stomach, a J-shaped structure. From the stomach there is a highly coiled intestine known as small intestine, though this intestine is larger in terms of length, but it is called small intestine because of its small diameter. Then we have the large intestine. This is the part of the large intestine, and then we have rectum and the anus. Through the process of defecation takes place. So the parts of the alimentary canal: oral cavity, esophagus, stomach, small intestine and the large intestine. Then we have digestive glands. When we talk about digestive glands, they are salivary glands and the intestinal glands. Digestive glands plays a very important role in the process of digestion, because digestion is something where the mechanical as well as the chemical, both the actions are required in order to break down the food into a very small components, and those components has been absorbed by our body. So in the chemical digestion, digestive glands plays a very important role. Later on in the session we will discuss the role of the salivary glands, what are the different types of intestinal glands, what are their secretions, and how their secretions are helping the process of digestion. Next, we have accessory organs. If we talk about accessory organs, we have liver, we have gallbladder, and we have pancreas. Now here, there is a very important point. Always remember that accessory organs are not at all a part of alimentary canal. These organs are present in a human body and they aid the process of digestion in different ways. But when we consider the organs present in the alimentary canal, liver, gallbladder and the pancreas, they are not at all included. Normally students did mistake here. They consider liver as a part of alimentary canal or pancreas or gallbladder as a part of alimentary canal. Okay, so now we will discuss each part of alimentary canal in detail so that we are able to understand the function. Starting with oral cavity. If we talk about the oral cavity, it is the foremost part of the alimentary canal which opens by mouth to the outside. Let's look into this diagram. I'll zoom it for you. Yeah, see, this is oral cavity, also known as buccal cavity. So it is the foremost part of the alimentary canal which opens by mouth to the outside. The mouth is bounded by lips. This is the upper lip and this is the lower lip. So it is bounded by the lips and the cheeks, while internally it is bounded by jaws where the teeth are present. The oral cavity has several structures that help in the process of ingestion and digestion of food. When I talk about ingestion means the taking in of the food, and digestion means the breaking down of the food. So, both ingestion and digestion takes place in this oral cavity. This is the hard palate. This is the uvula. This is the soft palate. You can touch this part with your tongue. These are palatine tonsils. This is muscular structure known as tongue, and different types of teeth are present. When I talk about different types of teeth in human beings, hard structures that are held in the socket of the jaws are known as teeth. When I talk about the adult human being, they have 32 teeth, 16 in each jaw, 16 in the upper jaw and 16 in the lower jaw. When I talk about the different types of teeth, we have 4 incisors used for biting. We have 2 canines used for tearing. We have 4 premolars and 6 molars. Both of them are used for crushing of the food. So, we have 16 on the upper jaw, 16 on the lower jaw, total 32, and different types have different functions: incisors, canines, premolars and molars. If you have observed the carnivorous animal, for example, if you have observed your pet, that is dog, you might have observed that the side teeth, like this one, and look at my cursor, they are quite well developed. These are canines. In the carnivores, the canines are very well developed because they help in the tearing of food, that is the flesh. So, the teeth work together and break the large food particles into the smaller pieces of the same texture. So, here the process where the teeth work together to break down the large food particle into the smaller one, this is known as mechanical digestion. When I talk about mechanical digestion, no socket or some kind of screws are present. Mechanical digestion is done in a human body with the help of teeth. And the chemical digestion we discuss with the help of the enzymes. Next we have tongue. When I talk about tongue, it is a muscular sensory organ which is present on the floor of the oral cavity. Normally, whenever I teach my students, I always tell them to consider oral cavity as a room where the roof is made up of palate, walls are made up of jaws, and the floor is made up of tongue. So the floor is tongue, which is a muscular sensory organ. The surface of the tongue has several taste buds. Why I called it muscular sensory organs? Muscular means it is made up of muscles, and sensory means the sensation is present. And what kind of sensation is present? The sensation of taste is present. So, the taste buds are present which can detect 4 major types of the food taste, that is salty, sour, sweet and the bitter. The food is mixed thoroughly with the saliva and moves around the mouth. When you eat something, the food is present here, it is thoroughly mixed with the saliva and it moves around the mouth with the help of the tongue. So then tongue also helps in pushing and swallowing or deglutination of the food. Now, next part we have is esophagus. The mouth cavity opens into a small muscular tube-like structure known as esophagus. In esophagus, no digestion takes place. It is normally a pipe-like structure, obviously made up of muscles because it is present in the human body, that passes food from mouth to the stomach. Now here a very interesting process and a very important process takes place. That process is known as peristalsis. That is the rhythmic contraction and the relaxation of the esophagus muscles to push food downward. Okay, so if I talk about the structure of the esophagus, this is a pipe-like structure. The walls are made up of muscles, and this yellow part which is there in the picture, this is a food bolus. A wave of contraction happens in the muscle, due to which the food bolus pushes down and the muscles present ahead of the food bolus relaxes, due to which the movement from top to bottom happens. I want you to have a clear picture of this. So let's have a look in this video. Now see, you are eating your favorite piece of pizza. When you bite it, with the help of the teeth, the mechanical digestion is taking place. You are chewing your food, making the large pieces of pizza into a smaller one. These are the glands I will discuss in details later on. They release saliva. See, the saliva secretion is taking place. In the saliva, the enzymes are present and the chemical digestion is taking place. Now see, the food is mixes with saliva and it will go down through this tube-like structure known as esophagus. See the rhythmic contraction and the relaxation. And through this process, the food will enter into the stomach. Now this is a J-shaped organ known as stomach, and the food is present in the stomach where the further process of the digestion takes place. So now coming back to the stomach. If I talk about stomach, it is a J-shaped muscular organ. J-shaped muscular organ, see, look in the picture. This is a J-shaped muscular organ. This is the esophagus and the food bolus enters into the stomach. Always remember, in a human body, wherever we have any entry and the exit point, some muscles are present and those muscles monitor the entry and the exit of the particles. Let it be any particle depending upon the region of the body we are talking about. If we are talking about here in digestion, this is a point where esophagus ends and the stomach starts, and here a sphincter is present known as lower esophageal sphincter. Now this sphincter monitors the regurgitation of the food. Once the food is back into the stomach, now to prevent the backflow of the food, this sphincter closes. Now the question is, what happens in the case of vomiting? When vomiting happens, there is some kind of infection that is happening in the body. At that time, with a lot of pressure in the stomach, this sphincter opens and the regurgitation of the food takes place, due to which the food comes out from the mouth. So, moving on, we have this region. This region is a region where the gastric juices are present. So the wall of the stomach contains gastric glands and the secretions are known as gastric juices. Here when I use the term juice in digestion, juice means a liquid material is present in which enzymes are there. So majorly 3 types of secretions are present, or we can say that 3 types of things are present in this stomach gastric juice. The first one is enzymes. Now, if I talk about the enzyme, the pepsin is present, which breaks down the protein into the smaller components. HCl is present, which creates acidic medium for the activation of pepsin and kill harmful germs. And the mucus is present, that is a slimy substance, protects the inner lining of the stomach from the action of acid. Now, question is, why enzymes are present in inactive form in the stomach? That I will discuss when I will discuss the digestion in stomach part. Right now I am just explaining the stomach. So enzyme is clear that pepsin is present, HCl is present. Can be a 2-marker question in your structured paper, that what is the role of the HCl? So the role of the HCl is it kills harmful germs that may enter into your body along with the food. because in day-to-day life we are eating so many things. We are eating the street food also. Sometimes our hands are not clean, so there are quite number of chances that microorganisms may enter into the body. Though at every check, our body has been designed in such a beautiful way that in each and every level we have checkpoints. So here the checkpoint is present in the stomach, the HCl is present. Okay, so HCl kill the harmful organisms. Next, moving on, see, look into the diagram. Later on, when we discuss the digestion happens in the stomach, we will discuss that the digestion of proteins takes place in stomach. This is a large protein globule. Pepsin, which is present in gastric juices, act on the large globule of the protein and will convert the large protein globules into the small peptides. Now moving on ahead, we have small intestine. Small intestine is a highly coiled, narrow tube which is approximately 6 meters long. In the beginning also, I told you that small intestine doesn't mean that it is small in size. It is called small intestine because of the narrow diameter. But if we talk about the length, it is larger than the large intestine. So it is a site of a complete digestion and the absorption of the food. The food gets digested with the help of digestive juices secreted from its own wall and the associated digestive glands. The associated digestive glands are liver and the pancreas. So the complete digestion as well as absorption takes place here. If we talk about the components or the parts of the small intestine, we have duodenum, jejunum and ileum. Now, a very important structure is present in the small intestine, and that is villi. If we talk about villi plays a very important role in the body. No matter how many digestion takes place, at the end, what matter is how much energy has been absorbed in your body. How much food has been absorbed in your body, because ultimately the food which is broken down after the process of the digestion is being utilized by the different metabolic activities of our body in order to perform different functions. So the utilization of the food, that is the nutrients that plays a very important role. So for the utilization, it has to be absorbed. For the absorption, some special kind of structures are present, and those are villi. So they are present on the inner wall of the intestine. Villi are very minute finger-like projections, and they are present to increase the surface area for the absorption. I have incorporated another video in order to make clear the structure of the villi and its function. Let's watch it together. Now this is a highly coiled structure, small intestine. If I talk about the cross section area, the inner wall of the small intestine is folded into small projections called villi. The structure of villi is specially adapted for food absorption. The villi are finger-like and are large in number. These features greatly increase the surface area for absorption. So these are the finger-like projections. I believe that it is very much clear from the video. Moreover, the epithelium of villi is only one cell thick, and this provides very short distance for diffusion of the food molecules into the blood. A cell membrane of the epithelium has a large number of the microvilli to further increase the process of absorption. And in the center, the lacteal is present, which is surrounded by the blood capillaries. These red are blood capillaries, which allow the absorbed food molecule to be carried away rapidly through the process of diffusion. These are the food molecules, and see, from here they are coming into the bloodstream and they are circulated into the body with the help of circulation mechanism. And the process of diffusion is taking place because here the concentration gradient has been built. There is no use of energy. So without the use of energy, due to the concentration gradient, from the region of higher concentration, the food particles move towards the region of lower concentration. So this is the concept of the villi. So whenever you have this thing in your mind that how the digestion process is taking place, it is due to the process of villi. Moving ahead, we have large intestine. When we talk about large intestine, it is approximately 1.5 meter long tube that does not carry out any digestive function as the digestion is already completed in the small intestine. The wall of the large intestine absorbs water and the necessary salt from the undigested food. The rest of the dry content, known as feces or the fecal matter, passes into the rectum, and the rectum stores the feces until expelled from the body via anus. So the exit of the waste material through the anus is known as defecation, and this process is regulated by the anal sphincter. So this is about the parts of alimentary canal. Now we will discuss about the digestion process. When we talk about the digestion process, we know that everyday food we are eating is a mixed lot of many components. We eat carbohydrates, we eat proteins. So all the nutrients present in the food particle or the food we are eating ultimately has to be digested. So we have categorized carbohydrates and proteins separately in order to understand their digestion process. So we will start with digestion of starch. Now, always remember that the digestion of starch starts in the mouth. Can be a one mark question that where the digestion of starch starts. So it is the mouth, or you can say that in the oral cavity. So if you remember in the starting, I have showed you a video where the mastication of the food was taking place with the help of the teeth, and the saliva was poured into the buccal cavity or the oral cavity through some specialized glands known as salivary glands. I will discuss those glands here. Look into the picture. See, these protruded things here, they are the salivary glands. Salivary glands are exocrine in nature. Exocrine means they have ducts. Okay, so the secretion is poured into the duct, and that duct will carry the secretion to the target organ. It's not like the secretion has been poured into the bloodstream and through the blood it is circulated to the whole body and then the action is taking place at the desired location. No, they have ducts, so the action is very targeted here. So the first we have is the parotid gland. Look into the picture here near the ear. We have a parotid gland, and this parotid gland produces 20% of the total saliva. Sometimes a viral infection may occur into the parotid gland, and that viral infection is known as mumps. It causes the swelling of the parotid gland. It makes you feel uneasy. You're not able to chew your food. You're not able to masticate your food. Okay, so what you have to remember is the location of the parotid gland, that is near the ear, and the second thing is it produces 20% of the total saliva. The second is submandibular gland. This is submandibular gland. It is present below the lower jaw. This is your lower jaw. It is present below the lower jaw, and it produces 65 to 70% of the saliva. Third is sublingual gland. It is present or located inferior to the tongue here, and the 5% of the saliva has been produced through the sublingual gland. Now, the question is why I am discussing the salivary glands and the saliva here. We all know that saliva is present in our body. Okay, the saliva is present in the mouth. The point is, in this saliva, a very important enzyme is present known as salivary amylase. This salivary amylase helps in the digestion of the starch. Now, let's start. In mouth, the food undergoes mastication and comes in contact with saliva, which contains salivary amylase. So, and also one important point here, another name of salivary amylase is ptyalin. Okay, is ptyalin. That can be a 1 mark question. What is another name of the salivary amylase? Okay, so the salivary amylase acts on the starch, which is a carbohydrate, and it breaks down the starch into maltose plus glucose. Now, the digestion ends in the stomach due to the presence of HCl, and through the food stays as the food stays into the mouth for a shorter duration, so the digestion of the starch is incomplete. So, a quick recap: digestion of the starch starts in the mouth with the help of enzyme salivary amylase, also known as ptyalin, and the digestion of starch ends in the stomach because of the acidic nature of the HCl. Now in stomach, the digestion of carbohydrates temporarily stops due to the presence of the HCl, which denatures the salivary enzyme. The reason is salivary enzyme, that is salivary amylase, works best under the basic pH, and in saliva the basic pH is present. When food enters into the stomach, in stomach the HCl is present. HCl being a very uh, strong acid denatures the enzyme. So when enzyme is no more functional, the process of digestion is not taking place. And further, the digestion of starch starts in the small intestine that we will discuss. So the food reaches into the duodenum, that is a part of a small intestine, where it meets with the pancreatic juice. So look into the picture. This is here the small intestine is present, and this is the pancreas. So in pancreas secretes the pancreatic juices, mainly the pancreatic amylase, which degrades the leftover starch, that is a carbohydrate. And also the disaccharides are present in the brush border epithelium of the intestinal mucosa, which further degrades maltose, lactose, and sucrose. We will discuss this. So, in order to remember enzymes, always remember mouth, saliva is present, it's salivary amylase. Pancreas release another enzyme, it is pancreatic amylase. Next, let's have a discussion about the breaking components. Now, the action of the intestinal brush border epithelium, which I was talking about, these enzymes are responsible for final digestion of carbohydrates. How? The maltose, with the help of the maltase, converted into glucose, and the glucose, that is the two molecule of the glucose, and these glucose, with the help of diffusion, absorbed into the bloodstream. Isomaltase, with the help of isomaltase, breaks down into glucose and glucose, again absorbed into the bloodstream. Sucrose, with the help of enzyme sucrase, breaks down into glucose and fructose. Now, glucose is the simpler molecule that has been absorbed by the body, whereas fructose is still a complex one which will further degrade. Lactose, with the help of lactase, glucose and galactose. Dextrin, with the help of dextrinase, glucose and the maltose. So this is a very simpler kind of the reaction taking place. Now, if we talk about the digestion of carbohydrates overview, so I believe that this will be very easy for you to remember. In mouth, with the help of salivary amylase. Stomach, no enzyme, no digestion. Pancreas, pour pancreatic amylase into the small intestine. And also in the small intestine we have dextrinase, maltase, isomaltase, sucrase and the lactase to degrade the carbohydrate. So what kind of the questions will come from this topic? If we talk about the structured 3 marker or 5 marker, that can be explain the process of digestion of carbohydrates or the starch. And if I talk about the 2 markers, that can be where the digestion of starch starts, what is the role of pancreas in the digestion of starch, why the digestion of starch stops in the stomach, and how the brush border epithelium of the intestine aids in the digestion of starch. So I hope that The digestion of carbohydrates in the starch is clear. Now moving ahead, we will talk about the digestion of proteins. When we talk about proteins, we all know that proteins are very important component of the human body. So, in mouth, no digestion of proteins takes place because of the absence of enzyme. Food mixes with saliva and the starch degradation takes place. Then the food enters into the stomach through the esophagus and the protein digestion starts in the stomach. So in stomach, there is a very important role. The protein digestion begins in the stomach by gastric juice. Now we will discuss what are the components of the gastric juice and what is their role. So when I talk about the role of gastric HCl, the first one is it causes denaturation of the proteins. Second, it converts proteins to metaproteins which are easily digested. Third, it activates pepsinogen to pepsin. And fourth, it makes pH in stomach suitable for the action of pepsin. Now, I'll come to a very important point, that why the pepsinogen is present in inactive form in our stomach. Human body is made up of proteins. If the enzyme will present in active form in the stomach, eventually it will start degrading their own proteins. So the body is beautifully designed in such a way that whenever there is a need to digest a protein, the automatically HCl will activate the pepsin from the pepsinogen to pepsin and the process of digestion is taking place. Okay, so these points are very much useful in order to answer the question what is the role of gastric HCl. Now we have a role of pepsin. Pepsin is endopeptidase. When I talk about endopeptidase, endo means inside and peptidase means an enzyme which breaks down the peptide. So endopeptidase, an enzyme which breaks down peptide from inside. So it acts on the central peptide bonds. It is secreted in inactive form called pepsinogen and it is activated by the HCl. Third one is renin. It is a milk clotting enzyme. It is present in the stomach of the infants and has an optimum pH of 4. It acts on casein that converts the soluble paracasein and that will bind the calcium ions forming insoluble calcium paracasinate. Calcium paracasinate then digested by the pepsin. So this is the overview. Stomach secretes HCl which converts pepsinogen into the pepsin. HCl, we have discussed the functions. It kills bacteria. One function which I haven't discussed is HCl helps in the absorption of vitamin B12. Okay. Third is pepsinogen. It is secreted by the chief cells. Now see, chief cells secrete pepsinogen. It is activated by HCl and it converts the pepsinogen, HCl, autocatalysis converts into the pepsin. Now, the digestion of protein is completed in the small intestine by the proteolytic enzyme. I believe this picture is a perfect picture to recapitulate the enzymes associated with the digestion of proteins. Have a quick look here. See, look at my arrow. This is the stomach where the pepsin is present. Now, this organ is pancreas and pancreas secretes trypsin, chymotrypsin, elastase, carboxypeptidase. Here, this part proteases are present and in the small intestine aminopeptidase are present. So, pancreatic juice, the first is trypsin. Trypsin is present in inactive form, that is trypsinogen. Enterokinase converts trypsinogen into trypsin. Another enzyme, now we have a trypsin which is activated. Now this trypsin which further activates the enzymes that helps in the digestion of proteins. First one in a list is chymotrypsin. Trypsin activates chymotrypsin from the chymotrypsinogen which further degrades protein. Trypsin activates elastase from the inactive form proelastase. C. Pancreas secretes trypsinogen and chymotrypsinogen. These are inactive ones. Pancreatic duct will take trypsinogen and chymotrypsinogen into the small intestine, where the trypsin, this is the trypsin, enterokinase act on the trypsin, okay, the trypsinogen to form trypsin. Trypsin act on chymotrypsinogen to form chymotrypsin. Chymotrypsin also acts on protein. Trypsin also acts on protein. So in a nutshell, we have two enzymes acting on the protein, that is chymotrypsinogen, trypsin and the trypsin. Next is digestion by intestinal juice. Aminopeptidases, it acts on the amino acids. Okay, aminopeptidases, it acts on the terminal peptide bond of the polypeptide chain, and as a result we have a single amino acid. Tripeptidases acts on tripeptides, and as a result we have single amino acid and a dipeptide, and these are absorbed into the blood. Dipeptidases, it acts on dipeptides, and we have two amino acids. So the end product of the protein digestion in the small intestine are amino acids, which are further absorbed into the bloodstream. So this is a quick recapitulation of the digestion of proteins. Point 1, in the mouth, chewing starts the mechanical breakdown of the protein. In the stomach, chemical digestion of protein begins from HCl and the enzyme pepsin. In the small intestine, polypeptides are broken down into amino acids, dipeptides, tripeptides by protein digesting enzymes secreted from the pancreas. Here I am talking about chymotrypsinogen, I am talking about trypsin also. A variety of different transport proteins move the products from the protein digestion into the mucosal cell. Some amino acid shares the same transport system, that is, they are being absorbed. Dipeptides and tripeptides can enter the mucosal cell. Once inside, they are broken down into single amino acid. Amino acid passes from the mucosal cell into the blood and travel to the liver. The liver regulates the distribution of amino acids to the rest of the body. And the small amount of the dietary protein is also lost in the fecal matter. So this is the overview that how the digestion of protein is taking place inside the body, in which organ, which is the main organ for the digestion of protein, and how the simplest form of protein, that is amino acid, is absorbed into the human body. So this is all about the digestion and the digestive system. I hope the topic is quite clear to you. So I'm open for the questions, though I'm not able to see the screen. So I request my audience to kindly write their queries in the comment box given below. I will answer each and every question. Also, you can write that next time you want me to discuss which topic, I'll come with a live session. So thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook so that you cannot miss any of our